Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your gaming podcast that's actually your secret friendship podcast. My name is Travis, and I'm joined tonight by the entire My Mythical Meta crew. I've got my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And my two wonderful friends, Derek and Randy.
Hello.
Today's episode, we are talking about common myths around Dungeons & Dragons and role-playing in general. And we will be debunking those myths and setting the record straight. So listeners, what are some myths or stereotypes that you've experienced in being a D&D player? Some things that have been wrongfully applied to you, or things that other D&D players seem to believe that you know is false. Let us know. What do you think we should address? So leave those in the comments, or you can also send us directly questions, comments, or ideas. Randy, what is our email address where people can contact us directly?
It is mymythicalmeta@gmail.com.
We are happy to receive mail and talk about it directly here in the show. Today's Patreon shout out goes to Becky.
Becky.
Becky, thank you so much for your love and support, your continued patronage of the show. We couldn't do this without you. For information about our perks, Benjamin, where should people go?
People should go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta.
We've got a great show for you tonight where we are going to look at some Dungeons & Dragons or general role-playing game myths, and we want to set the record straight. We want to see how these myths ruin people's perceptions of the game, especially outsiders, who we always want to be inviting in, right? Every hobby always needs new players or it will die. I think we have an entire episode about that, about hobby gatekeeping, about how we always want to be inviting new people into our hobby. I'm going to put that in the link up here. It's always a bad idea to establish gateways for people to join. You always want new blood coming into your hobby. And some of these myths do that. They prevent the engagement or the excitement of the game. And so we're going to address them, and hopefully you can use this episode, you can use some of the things we say to get people into your games with you. Each of us is going to introduce a different myth, and we'll talk about those and the arguments against them.
Hold on. Before we dive in, I do want to let our listeners know that if you're tuning in and you're like, man, I've been around a long time, I'm not a new player, I don't need to hear myths that new players might think. These are actually myths that you probably still believe as an enfranchised player, or that we've seen people write about online or put in their webcomics. These are common myths that a lot of people who've been playing for years still believe. So stick around.
Right. Absolutely.
Hey, Marin,
Yes.
what's up?
You want to come say hi on the podcast? Come say hi.
Hi.
Say hi. This is my daughter, Marin. Okay, time for you to go back to bed. Yeah, that is working. Time for you to go back to bed, okay?
Papa's got to make that money.
That's right.
That is
He
working.
makes money to buy you toys.
She can't hear y'all. I have my headphones in. Can you go back to bed? Is your light too bright?
No.
No. Is your music too loud?
No.
Do you need your Tony box?
No.
Is anything wrong in your room?
Like, you're not there, Dad.
You're just looking too cute. Need you to go to bed? Yes. You want to pop bubbles on the computer?
Yeah.
Nope. You got to go to bed. Love you.
Smiling away, boys. Smiling away.
Are you going to sleep over there? All right, listeners, my daughter is laying on the couch in the same room. Let's see how this goes. I think it's going to go great. Okay. Derek is going to start us off with probably one of the most prolific arguments that I see online. And I think it's a myth that really damages what D&D can be, the possibilities of what any role-playing game can be. So Derek, take it away.
Yeah, so this is going to sound antithetical, which is why it's, a popular myth as it is. But you don't have to follow the rules exactly as written. First off, they change the rules all the time, and what was legal is now illegal, vice versa. But for the DM, you're literally god of this world, this adventure or whatever, and you can make anything happen. You're the only one. you and your people are the ones enforcing it. You know, Wizards of the Coast isn't driving down with the Pinkertons and beating on your door if you
Yet.
yeah. If you crit on a skill check or something, which is not supposed to be allowed or whatever. But yeah, your dungeon master has final authority. You know, they can adjust or override rules to fit whatever the story needs. Like, one problem I have is that I say, oh, you know, what do you do or whatever, instead of just, you know, like, oh, maybe you can't escape this thing. Maybe they're unbreakable chains or something like that. Sometimes giving people too much agency, and just as the DM's like, hey, let me railroad you real quick by, you know, hand waving some nonsense about like, oh, there's anti-magical fields in these bricks or something like that. Like, stuff that doesn't exist in the books, or maybe they do, but, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, you're free to homebrew. I mean, we're basically just playing an elaborate game of make-believe with one person kind of setting the stage and everyone kind of playing their little roles. So, you know, feel free to, you know, we call it the rule of cool. We didn't come up with that, but, you know, if something sounds fun or cinematic, we as the My Mythical Meta
came up with the rule of cool.
It was us. We did it. You guys are welcome, and free to use it because we are magnanimous.
Don't fact check that.
Yeah. But with the rule
That's
of cool,
right. No,
you know, like,
no magnanimity here.
Yeah.
No fact.
If I'm going to jump off a building with an axe and I just want to like cleave one guy, and I roll, you know, well enough, it's like, you know what? Hey, that sounds cool enough to just do. And I cleave apart one guy. You know, it doesn't really change anything. We're going to fight the guy, but, you know, let your players have their fun little moments. That's stuff that makes things memorable. Hey, you remember when I jumped off that roof like a pro wrestler and cleave that guy in half?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Well, it's like, I don't want to play D&D to be in a reality simulator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that is not why I'm here. Real life Travis cannot, you know, jump from the rafters and cleave someone with an axe.
Yeah.
Okay? But there
As
is
much
a
as
chance,
he would like to.
as much as I'd love to. But there is a chance that in my imagination, this is possible. And so, like, let your imagination and the imagination of your friends work together to do cool things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of going along with this is there's all sorts of rules about rations and about encumbrances and about movement speed and resting, ammunition, all these things that, you know what? Sometimes that's fun. I'm not going to say that you should ignore it completely, right? In our Martian colony game, the fact that Randy's gun is limited to 6 shots matters, right? Like, how much time it takes to get somewhere matters sometimes. And in those times, you should enforce those rules. But sometimes it's just a lot of extra bookkeeping that makes your game go long and get boring. And you can just say, you know what? I'm giving you all some Limbus bread, so we don't have to keep track of your rations.
Yeah.
Right? Or we just ignore it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, imagine you're reading a book or watching a movie, and, you know, you have to sit there and count how many arrows they're firing, or, well, these people haven't eaten today. We didn't get to see their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, I mean, it's been days. Surely they're starving to death.
There is a cut of the Hunger Games that includes all the times Katniss used the bathroom. Yeah, and all the details, the gritty details that go along with doing that in the Hunger Games. Guess which version got published and which version did not, okay? That's not interesting and it's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are rules for it. It's there in the player handbook for people who want to use it.
Yeah. And for
That's
people who don't want to use it,
zero discussion. How crunchy do you want to get?
oh, sick.
But yeah, the rules are more like guidelines. You know,
Pick the ones you want to use and throw away the other.
yeah,
Hey, go lay down. You got to go lay
it's
down.
like a ghost.
Just like parenting.
Yeah,
Keep the
being a
ones you
kid.
like and get rid of the ones you don't.
No, I meant pick the rules you want to follow and ignore the rest. That's what she's doing right now.
I thought it was pick the kid you like and
Ignore the rest.
ignore the rest. No, I especially like this point that even Wizards of the Coast updates the rules.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the rules get updated means that rules can change. It means that none of the rules that have been written in any book are holy sacred scripture. So just in the last year, Wizards released D&D 5th edition 2024. It's still 5th edition, but some classes have undergone some changes and some spells have undergone some changes. Imagine that there were people out there already playing with these changes before ever seeing the new book, because they already felt instinctively that something was unbalanced or something needed a change. And every playgroup has that freedom. And that means you, listener, have that freedom to change things that you think aren't balanced or that you think aren't fun or don't work. You have that freedom, and everyone does. And I think that's what this myth is, that there aren't the Wizards of the Coast police. No one has a hidden camera watching you play D&D. All it is what Randy said, a guideline for how you can come up with stories together in a fair way between you and your friends. Like, if you and your friends get along really well, you can create stories together without a rule book at all. But these rule books help to facilitate conflict in a way that's fair. You know, they facilitate chance or fate or destiny or randomness in ways that are fairer than people just saying, I want to do it this way, and then Randy saying, no, I want my character to do it this way. Well, these rules help to facilitate that, but not every rule is perfect. D&D was created by humans, and humans are fallible.
Yes. It's like it's a sliding scale from Calvin ball on one end to pro soccer on the other, with like your backyard game in the middle, where you kind of say, well, there's a goal over there, and you set out it's between two trees. Well, obviously it's not the strict regulation, but you do what it takes to have fun with your friends, even if it's not following the same rules as professional soccer, right? And a great example of this, of how games can be made better by not following the rules as written. Just think of the last time you played Monopoly. Every group plays with money on free parking, and it's not in the rules as written, but it makes the game better.
I don't think I've ever played a game of Monopoly the same way twice.
Yeah, same with Uno.
Yeah. I've never seen people play. We'll come back to Uno, but I've never seen people play Monopoly with the auction. It's right there in the rules.
Oh yeah, the property auction.
Yeah. Uno, we've talked about this before. Everybody thinks their version's the best way.
We talked about it before we ever did video. Maybe we should talk about it again, Benjamin. Maybe you should tell us about your wife's family's crimes with Uno.
They've turned Uno into a speed game where you slap on zeros, where if someone plays a red 4, anyone can play a red 4. Just slide it in there before, as long as you play your red 4 before the next person plays their card, then, and whoever played the top one, it's the next person's turn. So you might get skipped just because the person next to you had a red 4. Or, you know, not just red 4s, I'm using that as an example, blue 2s and yellow 3s and everything. Yeah. If you have the same thing, you know, you double up all your draw 2s and draw 4s, of course. And it's a mad dash for everybody to get all their stuff in. Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing. For them, they had a consistent play group growing up. It was okay for them to not play with the rules as written. But even Uno has admitted that their rules as written might not be the most fun way for everyone, because they've created the blank cards where you can do whatever you want. And that's the same thing that Wizards allows everyone to do. Or even if they don't allow it, guess what? Who cares? You know, you can play the rules as you want to play them. And if you think there's something about D&D that's not fun as written, leave it out or change it.
Hey, if you disagree, come at us in the comments. Tell us how if you don't play with the rules as written, you're not playing D&D. Don't call it D&D when you get together to play. I've seen that. Don't call it D&D if that's not what you're playing.
That's fair.
All right. Our next myth comes from Benjamin. Break it down.
Yeah. One of the biggest myths that I see constantly, I think it's part of the role player's psyche, is that the DM is your enemy. And the DM is not your enemy. The DM is a player just like you, looking to have fun just like you. And their role should be to facilitate the fun of the group, not a competition between the player characters and the DM, each trying to win against the other. Everyone's trying to win, but the DM is part of the team. It doesn't feel like it because they're the ones controlling all the villains, and they're the ones controlling the dungeon that set the springing traps, and they're the ones who have the enemies that are coming at you, and they're the ones hiding the truth from you because they're creating the challenges. Your game is not fun unless they do a good job of only giving you what you need to go to the next step. If they did everything for you and made your life easy, you wouldn't be playing a game, you'd be listening to an audiobook, right? So good DMs create obstacles and challenges that test the players, push them to their limits, maybe kill one or two every once in a while, just to keep things interesting. But the players are ultimately meant to overcome those things and have fun while they do it. It's not meant to serve as a death trap. It's not meant to punish the players for not bringing the right chips to the session or anything like that, right? The DM's ultimately trying to create a good game and is on the same team as the players.
And we have to caveat this: good DMs
Yes.
are creating obstacles for the players that are meant to be overcome.
Yeah.
Bad DMs are trying to win.
Bad DMs are trying to win. Bad DMs will create a death trap with no way out.
I mean, there's the corollary to this is that the players are not your enemy if you're the DM. A lot of DMs treat it that way. Like they treat it like it's a game of arch enemy, where it's like, I have my army and the three of you have your player characters and I'm trying to kill you or beat you. And the players are likewise scheming, how can I trick the DM into letting me have this overpowered thing, right? There's also there's a lot of jokes out there which are hilarious, where they try to create this overpowered system of spells that says I can trap any enemy in place by having it fall infinitely through a loop that it can't get out of because there's no saving throw. And that's funny. That's hilarious. But also, like, that's not the point, right? Creating cool things is great. And a good DM will give you an opportunity to use what you've created. And a good player will use it when necessary. But the goal shouldn't be to trick your DM. You should talk to your DM about, hey, is this an acceptable way to play this game? And the DM should honestly consider that. And everyone should be working together to have fun and create a cohesive story.
Yeah, I mean, Benjamin, you mentioned this. It was an episode, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, called From Novice to Master, Elevating Your RPG Skills, where the DM will look at the player's character sheets and look at the abilities they have, and then create puzzles, create challenges that utilize those skills or abilities. And then it's up to the players to realize or remember or use their abilities in a creative way to solve the challenge. And as a DM, I've only ever been happy when that happened.
Yeah.
You know, when they solved my puzzle or whatever. And I love it even more when they solve a puzzle in a way that I didn't plan. A couple years ago, we were running the Strixhaven module
Yes.
from Dungeons and Dragons. This was with Derek, Randy, and the 2 Kristens. So Strixhaven takes place on a school. It's like Hogwarts. It's like a magical college. And the adventure that we were doing was to sneak into a mansion that was on campus at night and steal something.
Yeah.
So the whole premise of the module is to do it at night when no one's there. But in the module, it says there's a party, there's an event at this mansion on campus. And so Derek and Randy and the Kristens, they said, why wait till after the event? Let's just go to the event. So it's literally full of people. It's got all of their teachers there, and they're just walking around this mansion in broad daylight, basically. Like,
Yeah, I got in because I was like the star quarterback or something like that. And I was like, hey.
Like 3 sessions beforehand, we had established that Derek was only there to play whatever magic football is.
Yeah.
But he's there on a
Quidditch,
scholarship. Yeah. And so Derek's like, I want to show up and like rub elbows with the teachers and kind of schmooze my way so that we get access to the thing. And then the Strixhaven book also has lots of rules for clubs and ways that people can be active on campus. And one of them is the tavern on campus. You know, you can work there. And so I think that was one of Kristen's, and she said, well, I'm going to go there and say that I'm with the caterers and that I'm like on loan from the tavern as one of the caterer people. And so they came up with all of these reasons to be on campus, past their charisma, deception rolls, whatever. And that was such an amazing way to force me to improv my way through that adventure. And it was so much fun and not something that the module had planned for at all. And there's only joy in that. Like, I'm not going to go home and think players really beat me on that one.
For me.
Yeah, they they lied and rolled well in order to get with it. Well, yes, that is what they did. But I was a part of that story. Is there?
You're getting paranoid. Oh, there she is.
What
It
did you
reminded me
color?
of that
Hey, color
meme from
Spidey
The
orange.
Office.
Did you
where
color Spidey?
Dwight turns around and
toes
Angela's right
orange?
behind him. He's like, oh shit.
Yeah, Spidey. Orange.
Spidey's nails are orange, y'all.
Is that Dino
Spidey
Spidey?
T-Rex. Yes, this is Dino Spidey. Good job. I like that. Can you do the same thing with the other toes?
I tried to draw with Spidey for a little while.
Oh, okay. She said she's going to draw with Daisy, the dog. Do you want to add anything about the DM being someone's enemy? That is a myth. It shouldn't be played that way.
Yeah, no, I just think that it's a trap that a lot of players fall into, and I think that's especially true. I think it's more true that this myth persists in regular groups where people are constantly coming back, especially when there's a forever DM who maybe is a little bitter or is trying to come up with something different. They're trying in their attempt to challenge their players. I think it starts. They're not trying to do it on purpose. It starts with them saying, "How can I challenge them?" And then the players are min-maxing, and then then that makes the DM min-max, and it's basically power creep, and it's the arms race. But the arms race after a few years becomes we are against each other. It's a cold war of DM and players, and it happens by accident, but then it persists for years until someone realizes we're not having fun. We're just trying to beat each other.
Yeah, but like that. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I've seen it online in lots of threads and stuff, but it seems weird to me that the DM would ever lose in that scenario.
Yeah.
Well, can't the DM just make up enemies that the DM can create monsters?
Well,
the DM can
so the DM
and scenarios that cause players to lose.
Did y'all watch the second season? It's like the first episode of the second season of Squid Games.
I haven't seen season 2 yet.
Oh,
no.
okay.
no spoilers. Okay.
I mean, I'll spoil it. It's not a huge
Yeah, go ahead.
spoiler.
I don't think anything in episode 1 of anything can be a spoiler.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's literally the premise of the show.
The main character has a game of Russian roulette with one of the game master people. There's only one bullet left, and it's the bad guy's turn. And he could shoot, but it meant more to play the game than it did to cheat, I guess. I'm not explaining it well, but he was so invested in playing the game, I guess the right way, that he was willing to die for it.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know.
So I guess a DM. So the DM would be trying to use like a challenge rating 10 for my party of level 10s, but still trying to find ways to win, I guess.
Yeah, or the way that DMs can lose is, players ask what seems innocent, like things like, "Can I do this?" And the DM's like, "How does that go wrong?" And they don't think of it, and so they're like, "Yeah, that's okay. Can I? Okay. Can I have this kind of familiar? Can I have these things in my spell slots? Can I use this spell from 3rd edition? Can I?" And it's because everyone's pretending to still be trying to have fun and play the game, but the DM loses because they allow the players to do things that outsmart them, basically, because the game falls apart completely if the DM becomes outwardly tyrannical, right? If the DM just says, "We have the 3 of you are level 3, all right, now here's a Tarask," then it's just over, right? That's not, it can't become too obvious, but it's still happening. It's under the surface, right? And so I think that's the explanation for it. It's not that the DM loses because they're outwardly fighting each other. It's because they're secretly fighting each other, and the DM loses on that.
I will say that also, just from being in gaming, and I like to play with mods a lot, and there's like mods that make things like way more difficult just for the sake of difficulty. People just like extreme amounts of challenge and finding ways to break the game and outsmart the system. So not that you can't have a battle with the DM, but as long as it's like not tyrannical, it's a friendly competition, I guess. It's more of wits, of who can challenge the system the best, I guess, and trap the other one
in a logic fallacy loop or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Within the rules of the game or whatever.
Yeah, but don't do that, listener. You and the DM are on the same team. You're both trying to have fun.
Yeah.
I remember the DM doesn't have to follow the rules of the game as discussed in point 1.
That's right.
That's right. The next myth is about game balance. This is one that I have seen for literally my entire time as a player. Literally since I was in the 6th grade starting to play D&D. People have been talking about this idea that martial classes are worse at high levels than spellcasters. While spellcasters scale up exponentially to have reality warping powers, and that martial classes can't compete, that they're completely unable to hold their own. I don't think that's the case. My first bit of evidence is my own experience. I've always had more fun as a martial class, even at high levels, because I feel like I have to be smarter than a spellcaster. Like, spellcasters they literally have a book of buttons they can press to solve problems for them. But martial classes don't get that. We've got to figure out some other way to do something cool or whatever. I mean, spells like Wish and Time Stop, it's like, no, my fighter's got to be smarter than that. I have to be smarter than, can I wish this result? Yeah, I'm going to have to follow some steps. I'm going to have to make a plan and, take one bite of an elephant at a time in order to get the result that I want, instead of being able to cast Wish. And here's another thing. High-level magic does not solve everything, because like we were talking about with Benjamin's last point and with the point beforehand, the DM has all of those same resources. They have all of the same resources that the players have, if not more. And so if the players try to just use high-level magic to solve all their problems, there are some problems that need teamwork and strategy, that need multiple minds in order to solve, or that need multiple players on the board in order to solve. I can't win a game of chess with only a queen. Does that make sense? I've got to have more pieces in order to win. The queen is not enough to be able to win the game. I've got to be able to set up other people in other places in order to do more things. Some other things that I've always liked about martial classes, fighters, barbarians, monks, is the consistency. I've seen so many times spellcaster players running out of spell slots very quickly. Mm-hmm. They want to blow their load at the first enemy of the day, and then the DM has planned 4 more encounters over the course of that day, and the mage or the sorcerer or the warlock or whatever, they spend the last 2 encounters just eldritch blasting everything because they're out of spells.
Eldritch Blast, though, is the best. No. Like it
Like, it's a good spell.
I wouldn't include that in there.
You wouldn't include the Eldritch Blast?
No, it's so good.
Well, still, like,
I think that's part of the problem that kind of perpetuates this myth, is that I think a lot of DMs will have one battle and then you rest fully to recover. So
Yeah.
you rarely get to experience the magic
This
users.
low resource problem.
Yeah.
They don't often
Yeah.
see their low dip, because it's usually one fight and we're done. But once you have 2 or 3 battles, they're out of spell slots and they're like, well, I can do a D6 of damage, maybe a turn.
I'll do an acid splash, I guess.
Yeah. All
Pocket sand. Yeah, exactly. And as a fighter or barbarian, I can be rushing in there with, 4 attacks around, and just because according to the rules, it doesn't matter how long I've been fighting throughout the day. I'm not tired until my HP drops to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If I have 1 single point of HP, then I have all of my resources available to me. And that is something, honestly, that's something I like about D&D. I know that there are other role-playing games and systems that handle that differently, that will take away your action economy as you get closer and closer to death.
Yeah, Mage does that. All the White Wolf games.
I mean, and so does Martian
Can you bring
Colony.
it to me?
No, Martian Colony does not. As long as you have 1 HP in a category, you have full use of that category.
in a category, but you can
Right.
lose categories.
So if you get below 3 HP, yes, you start to lose resources. But as long as you have 3 HP or more, and that's where the max HP would be, what, 2050, right? Because it'd be 20, 20, and 10 would be the max HP for most people. So
Yeah.
from from 50 to 40 to down to 3, you don't lose anything in Martian Colony.
Okay.
Yeah, so that reflects again Travis's whole. He likes that your action economy isn't affected until you're.
Well, I like that because it feels heroic. It feels like I can fight to the bitter end.
Yeah,
Last breath.
And yeah, to my very last breath. There are some role-playing systems that I unfortunately haven't played with yet that reverse it, where the lower HP you have, the more action economy you get. Because it ramps up. You get that Zenkai boost,
it's like
where the closer you get to death, the harder you're fighting, which I think is a neat idea.
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
Very
But again, I
anime.
haven't played it myself.
Well, I was going to mention magic resistance. I think that if you're constantly experiencing the spellcasters being awesome and overwhelming a battle instead of the martial characters, that means your DM isn't taking advantage of all of the villains out there that could have magical resistance. You're not taking advantage of the liches, even there's smaller things like Rakshasas and horrors and things that can put the spotlight on your fighting characters. I think that there are plenty of ways to highlight different types. And theoretically, if you're at that high of a level, you should be encountering those kinds of monsters. And so you shouldn't be stuck with the spellcasters doing all the work, because the higher level monsters should have those resistances.
I also wanted to make sure to mention that barbarians, even at a very, very early level, at least in 5th edition D&D, when they're raging, all of the damage they take is halved. Straight up halved. Except for psychic damage.
Yeah.
Only a specific type of barbarian.
So is all
Is that
all
the totem
barbarians-
barbarian?
Yeah.
for rage?
Okay.
So it's rage will reduce the bludgeoning, piercing, slashing by half.
Okay.
Just for rage. And then totem does it for like thunder, radiant, necrotic, and everything
else except for psychic.
Everything
psychic.
except psychic.
Yeah. But
Still.
still getting all physical attacks, like melee based attacks pretty much, reduced by half. So
Because
strong.
it just shows like there's one place for that barbarian to be, and it's a place that your casters like
should never
cannot
be.
live, and that's right in front of the enemy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, one sniper with a bow should be able to take out a wizard because they don't have the constitution to resist it.
I think, especially at high levels, yes, casters have a lot of utility. But like if it's a 1v1 situation, it's like the caster needs to get the higher initiative because they probably won't make it very far into their turn if they don't.
Mhm.
Like if the fighter goes first, closes the gap, and then just like
Blam, blam,
1,
blam,
2, 3,
blam,
4,
blam.
action surge, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just like the wizard's 89 is gonna be gone like that. Even if the fighter rolls horribly, the explosive potential in a melee class at high levels is just huge.
Yeah.
To put out that damage.
So, I think for this myth, I want to bring it back to the idea that your DM has to be on the side of the martial classes here in order to help balance them, I think. Like, the DM needs to do their part in the game in order to make all of the classes have reasonable use, to make sure all of the classes have reasonable abilities, and that each character, that each player has an opportunity to shine. Like, if your wizard has been meteoring things once a day, then maybe you need to come up with an encounter where a meteor is not a viable solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or even
if
just
you-
have. Oh, go ahead.
let's say the DM incapacitates somehow the fighter for the first couple rounds of a fight, and the wizards get absolutely dominated because no one's sitting there taking
Yeah,
the
no,
damage
taking-
and
no one's taking
body
the aggro.
blocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even
So
just
use some tactics and make sure that your martial classes have a chance to shine. Randy, didn't you say you had a book that was like, my God, the monsters are thinking, or something like that? What's it called? The monsters know what they're doing. Is that what it's called?
I don't think I have the book, but I think there are like books out there where it's like monsters using pack tactics, like
Yeah.
how actual creatures would use different war strategies and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think
Monsters aren't dumb. They're not just going to charge you one-on-one. A lot of times,
Right.
unless they are a solitary animal, but even then, it's like they know to ambush.
Yeah.
It's like creatures aren't dumb. If they're high level and they've lived this long, they got there for a reason.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I've always liked playing martial classes more than casters anyway. So this topic is near and dear to my heart. Marin, you have to go back to the couch or to your room. That's all. Those are your only two
Listeners,
choices.
if you
now.
have parenting advice for how to have a podcast when your child won't go to sleep, leave it down below in the comments.
Take that baby and you just into
Brought to
the
you
bed.
by ZQuil. All right. Our last one is near and dear to all of our hearts. This is a message from Eldorado Gaming. Randy, take it away.
Sponsored.
Our actual real life sponsor.
The myth is that dice are random. No, wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the myth.
Yeah. Like the myth is that dice are random and balanced. Okay, and that like you need to have a balanced set of dice. Okay, it's like there's been several times that we're at a convention. People ask, "Are these balanced?" And it's like they're as balanced as 99.9% of any other dice out there because they're like
Well, I mean, balanced dice just don't exist.
yeah.
Except in Vegas.
Yeah. Vegas is the only place that's going to have real
Except when
balanced
people's
dice.
money is on the line.
Exactly.
And even
You know.
sometimes not then.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like,
I mean,
as long as you're not trying to like force the roll, like just roll the dice. It's going to give you something random. You're gonna have to roll something 10,000 times before you ever see like, it's not balanced. Look, it's 2% higher on this number. Cool. Had you not tracked your last 10 years of games, would you have ever known that?
yeah.
Has that ruined your entertainment in any way? No, because it's like no dice are perfect outside of Vegas, and even the ones that are engineered as much as they can be are going to have a slight variance here or there, which means that no two are going to be the same ever. So stop wasting salt and water and trying to float your die and record it. It's a stupid waste of time. It's like roll your dice with some conviction. If you can't do that, get a dice tower.
Not
Get a dice tray.
Get a
as
dice
much
tower,
conviction
get a
as
dice
Randy
tray.
rolls them.
Hey, they're just cowards. I want to make sure that my dice, are giving me, different results.
A sufficiently random result.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just like, unless your die has a huge air pocket in it where it's supremely lopsided and it's like this much of it is solid, but all of this over here is air and just a slight shell of dice, it's like, unless that situation, yeah, but then that's a weighted dice at that point. That was almost made that way.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Even
don't
that
worry
one is-
about.
If you're not trying, even a die like that you won't notice it except over a long time. So
Exactly.
many rolls because the dice that are lopsided, unless they're like extremely weighted, the dice that are lopsided will still give you a fairly random roll as long as you try.
If you feel like you have a dice that's not well balanced and it rolls poorly, give it to your DM as a gift. They'll never know.
And then
Let them
buy
roll
new
bad for
dice
you.
from EldoradoGaming.com.
Yes.
With promo code META for 10% off.
That's right.
Because of all the materials that you could pick to make a dice, metal is going to be the one that has the least amount of chance of having like air bubbles in there. Plastic, I've seen air bubbles in plastic dice. I've seen air bubbles in
you can
resin
see 'em.
dice. Never seen an air bubble in a metal die.
True.
Just saying.
And even the kind of going along with that, if you have a metal die, the cooler your metal die is, the more likely it is to be balanced compared to cool resin dice where they stick a thing inside of them, little
Yep.
mushroom or plastic cat or
They're
the
cute,
one ring. Like,
but it affects
Yeah.
the roll more than just
but
just
also
a solid metal thing would be.
yeah. But if you like those things in your
dice that have a
use 'em.
liquid core, how can you think that that's going to be perfectly
Balanced.
balanced?
right?
Random, yeah.
I mean,
Because
so-
that liquid's going to be sloshing around, and I guess the sloshing is random,
but it's still, it's just like, it's
but the
balanced
result
dice
could be
don't
something
exist
else, but the
outside of
sloshing
Vegas.
impacts it to be whatever. Like, that's what we're saying, is that all of your dice are either random or close enough to random. That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
That no die is perfectly random, but all dice are close enough.
For a casual
And-
game like D&D. Yeah.
For a casual game like D&D, where there's no money on the line, where there's no prizes, these imperfections, these variances will only manifest themselves over a huge sample size. Like Randy said, 1,000 rolls.
Yeah.
At which point, it's impractical to have kept track of those results.
Yeah.
And it will diminish your fun if you do.
If you
That's
buy
right.
Eldorado dice and you record yourself doing 10,000 rolls and you bring me evidence that it is lopsided, that it is uneven and unbalanced, and there's a definite trend towards certain sides, I will refund your money personally. Not even Eldorado. I personally will refund your money, but I want video, uninterrupted,
Unedited
10,000
video.
rolls.
Yeah.
You heard them, listeners.
There you
I'm
go.
on it.
Your money back guarantee.
Refunded?
All right, Travis, I need you to put an asterisk right there.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
Well, and one of the interesting things is once you start figuring out how your computer programs, like a lot of people are like, haha, I've got you. I can say, Alexa, roll a d20, and that will be random. Actually, it's not. There's only two ways for computer programs
Random number generators.
to simulate, random number generators to simulate randomness. One is forced randomness. And I'm going to let Travis talk about that one because I think he has a whole thing that we were talking about beforehand. The other one, which I think is cooler, is that they actually use some sort of real world reference to give you a number, which is actually not random at all, but feels random to you. So one of the most common ways is for, like, if you're using something like a phone that has an internal clock or timer, or your computer that has an internal clock or timer, and you request a random number, they will reference the millisecond or the whatever bit rate or something. They'll look at some internal clock that's running and reference that for your random number. So it's actually the opposite of random, but feels random. Tell us about the forced randomness.
Well, forced randomness is they will have written a program of some kind that creates a series of numbers that appears random. But your real life dice can be more random and appear less random. So the example I had was, and of course my daughter took all of my dice somewhere. Ain't that perfect? Imagine an 8-sided die, and in real life, I can roll that 8-sided die 4 times and get 8, 8, 8, 8. That is a real life thing that happens. Whenever we were playing Mage the Ascension last year, I think it was me that got 4 10s in a row. I don't remember who. It might have been me. It sounds like me, of getting 4 10s in a row. But these randomness simulators that are in programs, it would generate the first one and get 8 as the result. Generates the second one, gets 8 as a result. Generates the third one, gets 8 as a result. But then it starts looking back at past results and saying, I've done 8, 8, 8, can't do 8 again. Because that doesn't appear random anymore. It appears broken. It's kind of like when you're taking a test and the teacher picks the same letter over and over and over again, and you start thinking it can't be C 6 times in a row. I promise you it can, because I've been the teacher to do that. But the computer programs that try to force randomness can actually be less random than an actual thing like a die. Like, as if you're jiggling it around and you let gravity affect it, it's going to be random enough for you. It's going to be random enough for your purposes.
Yeah. And
I mean,
it's
I can't do quantum geometrical gravitational math in my head in the moment between Benjamin saying roll initiative and me rolling a die. I can't do that, and I don't think a lot of human beings are capable of doing that. Of picking up the die, noting what angle it's at, jiggling it with 3 or 4 rotations in your hand, tossing it on the ground. Again, if you roll with conviction, I don't think anybody can be that good of a dice roller.
Yeah.
And if you are the person practicing your dice rolls in order to get really good, you should ask yourself if D&D is really the game for you. Like,
That's right.
you're not playing with fidelity. You're not playing with the intention of letting randomness affect whatever the task is, letting randomness affect the story.
This is when things like the thing in Jumanji, the kid tried to force a dice roll, turn him into a monkey, and that's what should happen. If you try to cheat on a dice roll, it should turn you into a half man, half monkey.
Yeah, exactly. Randy, what's this last thing you have here about dice jails?
That's Benjamin.
Yeah, that's right. That was Benjamin's.
I think there's a myth that dice jails are stupid. Now, this is not a myth for everybody. This is a divided. Some people love their dice jails, but some people just look at that and say, look, dice are random, because we just talked about that. And therefore, you trying to say this dice is bad juju, or that die really does, this is my lucky die, I'm going to keep it ready. And a lot of people are thinking the dice jails and the lucky die and all those things are stupid. Look, they're fun. They present an additional bonding experience for your group. They allow you to customize your gaming experience. Some people are really proud of 3D printing the dice jail they like, or buying them at conventions. We don't sell dice jails, so this is not a sales pitch. This is just a yet. That's right. Yet. But look, ultimately you should just buy dice that you don't want to put in dice jail. If you don't like the ones you have, go buy some new ones and then use them. And preferably you get them from EldoradoGaming.com.
I just had a great business idea. Instead of dice jails, dice thrones.
Yes.
The ones you love, let's 3D print some thrones up.
I like that idea.
Put it up there. And then you do little smaller chairs for like the king, the queen,
put the D20 on the top.
The whole royal family, the whole 7 set.
Yes.
What if I could do
like that a lot.
a 3D printed like lifeguard stand? Put my little D20 there. No running in the pool.
Not responsible for injury.
Yeah.
Dice thrones, trademarked, today's date.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too.
Anything you guys want to add?
Don't believe the myth.
Yeah, I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, any role-playing game, is such a customizable experience for you and your group. So if people start throwing around generalizations and stereotypes about Dungeons and Dragons or any role-playing game, those should all be taken with a grain of salt, because it doesn't have to apply to you and your group. Like that, I think that's, maybe word of wisdom part 1 here, is that D&D and this collaborative storytelling, none of it has to follow any of the rules or patterns that any other D&D group has done. Okay? Your group can do this game or any role-playing game, this collaborative storytelling experience, in the way that you want it to. You can make up your own role-playing game, like we have done with Martian Colony, in order to create the game system that you like. If you're tired of martial classes feeling useless at high levels, you can make a game where they're not useless at high levels. You can create the game, or you and your DM can work together to create the experience where they don't feel useless. That's what I think the issue comes from in a lot of these myths that we've talked about today, is that the way one group has played it became the way somebody else learned to play it. And then people are going by what that first mistake was. And these mistakes or these bad feelings have been perpetuated through the inception of trademark name Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't have to be that way. You can break the generational pattern. You can free yourself and your group from the generational trauma of Gary Gygax. Benjamin, do you have any words of wisdom for us this evening?
Yeah, I think something that all these things have in common is that it's a myth that D&D doesn't have to be fun. Really what all of these are about detracting from the fun that somebody in your group could be having if everyone would just work together to create a collaborative event and a collaborative game, right? It's like when people get together to play Pandemic and somebody starts quarterbacking, or they start shooting down people's ideas, not listening, whatever, and somebody there is not having fun. D&D goes the same way. If your spellcasters is overpowering the event, it should be on everyone in that group to make everyone else part of that game, right? Have a raid happen at night where the full rest hasn't happened yet. They haven't regenerated their spell slots. Make a home brew rule or a house rule or a cool item or whatever, right? The DM as an enemy is just sucking the fun out of it. So, and that insisting on casino level randomness takes away from the fun of dice like this. So whatever it takes, right? Your goal as a group should be to have fun first, and whatever it takes. If there's something standing in the way, that's a myth, because it's a game and it should be fun.
Guys, that was beautiful. I think I got a tear in my eye. That was awesome. Anything anyone wants to add? Derek or Randy? Let's sign off then, y'all. Benjamin, how can people find our Patreon?
They can go to patreon.com/My Mythical Meta.
Randy, how can people email us directly?
MyMythicalMeta@gmail.com.
Thank y'all so much. Please click subscribe. Leave a comment if any of these myths have come up in your group, if they've affected you, if you've got some myths that you want us to tackle. That way you can show more of our videos to your friends. Let us know. Click subscribe, comment, share, and as always, Benjamin, Randy, Derek, thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
Later.
Bye, guys.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.